Upon a commonplace afternoon did it all commence, one of those days when I returned from the gym, weary and in urgent want of a cleansing bath. The dwelling stood, ella quatas. Upon my entrance, I did tread. Lo! I did observe that neither my mother nor my sister was present. It was but I, alone in the silence, naught but the echo of absence, for such hath been my lot these many years since my father departed this mortal coil 5 winters past. In time, I had become familiar with the stillness of the abode in his absence, yet I found it did not trouble me greatly. It was but the manner of things, as is oft the case. With great urgency, I didst make my way to the chamber of cleansing, whereupon the perspiration from mine exertions didst cling to my skin. Yet, in mine haste, I didst come to the lamentable realization that I had not secured garments to don after my refreshing ablutions. Yet, I felt no trepidation. In solitude's embrace, I pondered, why should I make the effort? In but a few moments shall I complete my task, and they shall not return for a considerable time hence. Upon the floor, my garments did fall, as I ventured forth to the chamber of cleansing. Lo! I tarried in the shower longer than mine usual custom, relishing the moment's grace. Not hasten, believing ample time lay before me to find repose. Yet, unbeknownst to me, time was poised to embark upon a most peculiar course. Conclusion of my cleansing ritual, as I emerged from the waters, unclad and unadorned, I found myself utterly taken aback. Returned to the chamber of leisure, I did anticipate the abode to remain as hushed and desolate as it had been upon my entrance, yet such was not the case. Mother and sister upon the couch, their countenances mirroring the astonishment that gripped my own heart, as I beheld them in the living chamber, where I had but moments prior laid down my garments. Though by a weighty mass, my heart did cease its rhythm for but a fleeting moment, there we stood. Most unexpected and awkward moment, I found myself ensnared, for I had not anticipated the presence of another within the abode, nor the sudden intrusion upon my state of utter nudity. The silence didst linger, an eternity it seemed, in its unyielding grasp. In their gaze, I beheld the glimmer of astonishment, perhaps even a touch of mirth. In a tempest of confusion, I found myself bereft of speech, my garments clutched in a desperate grasp, embarrassment flooding my soul as I hastened towards my chamber. Mine visage did burn with crimson hue, a most awkward and embarrassing plight, as in a tempest of panic I did secure the portal behind me, striving to fathom the events that had just transpired. Mine thoughts did race, how could I have been so heedless? In my heart, a deep mortification did dwell, and though my kin did show understanding in the aftermath, the shadow of embarrassment lingered, never to fully depart. Lo, a week hath passed since that fateful hour, and for a time I did persuade mine own heart that all was well. I did muse within mine own heart, perchance they had let slip the memory or simply traversed beyond it, after all. Once did an awkward moment arise, yet life hath a manner of restoring its course. Though I endeavored to cast it aside, a shadow lingered still, an essence that would not take its leave. Verily, it seemed as though an unvoiced tension did pervade the atmosphere, a haunting presence akin to a shadow that lingered yet never departed. And after witnessing the manner in which my sister hath comported herself in recent days, I began to ponder whether they truly had forgotten, or perchance they had not. In mine chamber I did sit, ensnared within the ethereal realm of a game, where the clicking of buttons did echo and the fervent pulse of the adventure did thrum about me. Action filled the space around me, offering a brief escape from the awkwardness that had been hanging over me. I wasn't thinking much about what had happened earlier until I heard the door creak open. I turned to see my sister standing there, a mischievous grin on her face. She stepped into the room, and I gave her a quick smile, half expecting her to start talking about something completely unrelated like usual, but instead of just talking she started to joke around with me, her laughter filling the air. As she teased me about something silly like she always did, it seemed innocent enough at first, just a playful banter we shared countless times over the years, but there was something different in the way she was acting now. She wasn't just joking or laughing with me, her touch felt more frequent, more lingering. It was like she was trying to push some boundary. I wasn't quite prepared for it. First thought it was all part of the normal sibling dynamic maybe. She was just being playful like we often were. With each other growing up, we always had a lot of fun together, from harmless roughhousing to just sitting and laughing over inside jokes. It was the kind of bond that medios feel comfortable and connected, but as she got closer, her hand brushing lightly over my shoulder or back as she leaned in to say something, I started to feel a little uncomfortable. The touches weren't aggressive or inappropriate, but they felt more intentional, more deliberate than usual. Couldn't shake the feeling that Something had shifted since that day. Maybe I was just overthinking it. After all, it was still my sister, and we had always been close, but I couldn't ignore the small nagging feeling in the back of my mind that made me wonder if something was different now. Was imagining things, or was there something she was trying to express without saying out right? Her laughter continued as she playfully touched my arm and teased me about my gameplay, but the whole atmosphere had changed. The comfort and the I had felt before seemed to be replaced with a strange unease. I couldn't explain. I tried to focus on the game, but it was hard to ignore how her press felt more intense now, almost as she was trying to bring up something that neither of us had addressed. What's worse, I didn't know how to respond. Should I act as if everything was normal, like nothing had changed, or was it better to address the elephant in the room, even if it was uncomfortable? As the moments passed, I started to feel more self-conscious, more aware of every little touch, every glance. I couldn't help but wonder what was going on in Herman, and whether this was just her being herself, or if something deeper was at play. Anyway, I continued play my video game deeply, engrossed, my focus locked on the screen, oblivious to almost everything else around me. Out of nowhere, I felt her hand touch my thigh. I barely registered it at first. I thought maybe it was just an accidental touch. She had a habit of messing with me when I got too wrapped up in a game trying to get air action, but when it happened again, I felt a slight sense of unease growing. By the third time, it was undeniable. She was intentionally reaching over her hand, lingering in a way that didn't feel accidental at all. Finally, I pulled myself out of the game, realizing it needed to address it. "Me, stop!" exclaimed, pushing away from the console, and turning to face her fully. My voice came out louder and sharper than I'd intended, and the words seemed to hang in the air. Her face shifted, her usual mischievous smile fading as silence settled between us. For the first time, I could see something changed in her expression, a mix of surprise, maybe even a hint of hurt. We were siblings after all, bound by a carefree, close bond that had always been rooted in trust and playfulness, but now standing there in that thick silence, I could feel a strange tension building, something unsettling. It felt like an invisible line had been crossed, and I suddenly found myself questioning everything about the moment. "What's the matter?" G finally asked, breaking the silence. Her smirk returned, but with an edge I hadn't seen before. "Can't take a little teasing?" Her tone held a subtle challenge, as if daring me to confront whatever had shifted between us. The lightness was gone from her eyes, replaced by something harder to read. I took a deep breath, steadying myself as I faced her. "You have to forget what you saw that day," I said firmly, trying to cut through the awkwardness. I hoped those words would make her understand that we needed to leave certain things in the past, things that weren't meant to linger or change the way we saw each other. She stopped in her tracks, giving me a mock-offended look, crossing her arms dramatically as she stared me down. The usual light-heartedness in her eyes was gone, replaced by a playful but determined glare. "How could I stop? How could I forget what I saw?" she teased, lifting an eyebrow with a smirk tugging at the corner of her mouth. "I've never seen bigger like that. This awesome. You have a big thing, and you're my brother. Don't you want to share it with me? Come and just let me try it already." I rolled my eyes, surprised, but she wasn't done. She clearly thought this through. "Best, besides," she added, tilting her head like she was about to deliver the final blow, "Mom even said she wants to try it, and also my father didn't have the size. Go ask her if you don't believe me." She looked so confident, throwing in her favorite tactic, Mom's approval. She knew I'd find it hard to argue with that. I ran over to my mom in shock, practically stumbling over my words. "Mom, what on earth is she talking about? Did she say that?" What the My voice trailed off, trying to process what I just heard. My mom looked at me, a bit taken aback, but still composed. She gave a little chuckle and said, "Well, you know, she's actually right. I'm 55 years old, and believe it or not, I've never seen size like this before either." Until one day, she finally came to me. Her voice was soft, but filled with a quiet determination. She looked at me with a mixture of hope and sadness in her eyes, and said, "Come on, we're your family, we love you, and we want you to be with us. Don't shut us out." She took a deep breath before continuing, "It's been hard without your father. You know, he passed away 5 years ago, and I've been left to hold everything together on my own. I tried my best, but there are so many moments when I feel completely overwhelmed. Some days are just so lonely, and I could really use someone to lean on, someone who understands. I've missed you so much, and I know your father would have wanted us to stay close to support each other." She looked down for a moment, as if gathering the courage to go on, and then spoke again, her voice now tinged with a sense of urgency. "And your sister? She's almost 23 now. She's young, but she's been struggling too. She's never really had and want to depend on no boyfriend, no close friend she can truly count on. She's just alone." Her voice so fast she squeezed my hand. "We not asking for a lot. I promise you'll enjoy it. You'll feel that sense of belonging again. It's what we all need, and I believe it's what you need." To be looked at with a quiet intensity that made me feel like time had paused, and then without any warning she reached for the hem of my shirt. Her fingers were steady but quick, slipping beneath the fabric and lifting it up, and before I could even understand her intentions, my shirt was gone. Her movements were deliberate, yet there was a tenderness in them, as if she was acting on some impulse that she herself didn't entirely understand. I was frozen, my mind racing, an attempt to piece together what was happening, but it was as though my body had lost the ability to react every small gesture she made, her fingers brushing my skin, the way she tilted her head as she moved seemed to carrying unspoken message that I was struggling to decipher. Then she began to unbutton shared her hands, moving slowly, almost carefully. Button came undone, her gaze never left mine, and I could feel my heart pounding, my breath caught somewhere between shock and intrigue. I didn't know what to say, or if there was anything I should say. I didn't make a single move, unable to break the spell that had taken over the room as she continued. A surreal atmosphere, envelopes like we were both suspended in a place where words no longer had meaning, where action spoke louder than anything we could possibly say. I wanted to ask her what was going on, wanted to understand the reason behind the sudden shift, but my voice felt trapped in my throat. All I could do was watch as she peeled away the last layers of clothing, and it felt like each movement was somehow slow and yet impossibly fast. If time itself was I was still just trying to comprehend what was happening, to make sense of the emotions swirling in my head: curiosity, disbelief, a touch of apprehension. It was all happening so quickly, yet every second felt like it stretched out, hanging in the air, leaving me in a state of wonder and confusion. Moment I laid eyes on them without any clothing, something changed in me entirely. It was as if the world paused for a beat, drawing my attention to every detail of their bare skin, the way it caught the light, the soft curves and lines that seemed to invite my touch. It wasn't just an impulse, it was a slow-building need that I could feel in every fiber of my being, a craving that surprised even me. Thoughts of restraint began to blur, fading into the background as a more primal urge took center stage. In that instant, the only thing that seemed real was the space between us and the undeniable pull I felt toward them, and mind rays filled with images of what it would feel like, the texture of their skin under my fingertips, the warmth that I could almost sense radiating from them. It was a magnetic draw that was both thrilling and consuming, leaving me feeling like I was on the edge of something I couldn't quite name but deeply yearned to experience. I felt my heart pounding faster, my breathing growing shallow, the desire to bridge that gap, to reach out, to touch the feel intensified. Every rational thought melted away, replaced by a single powerful longing that I had never experienced with such intensity before. The room around us seemed to fade into obscurity, leaving only the three of us in this charged moment. It wasn't just about the physical desire, it was something deeper, a connection that felt almost inevitable, as if every choice I'd made had led me right here to this moment, and in that space, all I could think about was a touch, the sensation, and the electric connection waiting to be sparked between us. Without a moment's hesitation, we dove head first into fulfilling our three deepest desires, barely stopping to consider what might come of it. Each urge, each hidden wish, felt like it had finally clawed its way to the surface, demanding attention. The excitement and freedom of acting on them were all-consuming, like an intoxicating rush that swept us away from any sense of caution or hesitation. It felt exhilarating, liberating, even to ignore the usual voices of reason, the caution whispers that might have otherwise held us back. We were caught in a whirlwind of powerful momentum that pushed us forward with each choice, no matter how reckless, seek decision, feeding the sense that we were unstoppable, untouchable. We were driven by a mix of excitement, impatience, and perhaps even a touch of defiance. After all, these desires were things we had fantasized about endlessly, imagining what life would be like if we need to go after them with nothing to restrain us, and now it was all unfolding like a dream brought to life. But in that rush we didn't consider the ripple effects that might be set in motion, their precautions that might come back to confront us. The consequences were vague, distant notions, shadows we didn't want to acknowledge, much less confronted. Felt as though the future could wait. What mattered was seizing this fleeting sense of freedom, as if time itself might stop for us, just long enough to let us indulge in that moment. Each action felt justified, even necessary, like a piece of ourselves that had been hidden was finally being set free, and so continued, driven only by the thrill of experiencing everything we had longed for, racing ahead with hearts wide open and minds shut tightly to the potential cost of our actions.